Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, The Moonlit Grimoire. My name is River, I'm a solitary Wiccan, and this is a channel where you can learn about anything witchcraft. If you read the title of this video, then that's right. Today we're talking about spell jars. What is a spell jar? A spell jar or bottle spell is exactly what it sounds like. A spell put into a jar. Another name for spell jar is witch bottle. But not many witches like to call it this because the name witch bottle historically refers to the process of trapping a witch within a bottle, as if he, she, or they were evil and needed to be contained. That's not what a spell jar is today. A spell jar or jar spell is whatever you want it to be. But it depends on the spell as to how it will be used. You can make a spell jar for love, sleep, beauty, happiness, confidence, communication, abundance, luck, wealth, fertility, friendship, protection, and so much more. How do you use it? Jar spells are meant to be either used as a talisman that you can carry with you, or as an object in the room that passively puts out a certain emotion or energy, depending on the spell. But the type of spell within the jar will determine how it's used. If you make a spell jar that's meant to increase your finances, then perhaps the function of the jar is to be placed on top of a piece of currency, like a dollar bill, and passively bring up your finances over time. Don't think that means you can stop earning money and quit your job. The universe rewards those who put in effort. How powerful the spell is within the jar is determined by what tools are used and how much energy you put into it. What tools do you need? In order to make a spell within a jar, you're going to need, well, a jar. You could use a bottle or a jar of any size or shape. A mason jar could work, or even a perfume bottle. Or even a jar as small as a teeny-weeny little tiny necklace-sized bottle or charm. Once you have chosen a bottle and a spell to cast, first you must always cleanse the jar or container chosen. You can either do this before you perform the spell, or do it as the first step during the spell. I always cleanse my tools during the spell after casting a circle. How do you make a spell jar? Prepare your tools. Make sure you have everything you need, because if you cast a circle, you don't want to have to stop in the middle and go get something you forgot. Make sure your jar or container is cleansed, whether that is smoke cleansed, sound cleansed, energy cleansed, cleansed in water, or any other method you prefer. The next few steps don't have to be done in any particular order, because it depends on personal preference. But I'm going to say the steps in the order I prefer. Once you're ready to get started, if you have a base ingredient, start with that. This could be a type of salt, moon water, clear quartz, or a dried herb that's meant to charge or amplify the spell. If the jar has more than 2 or 3 ingredients, I like to alternate the dried herbs with the crystals, so that I can see the layers. But it's more of an aesthetic choice. And how many ingredients you add depends on the spell. Don't throw a bunch of things together just because they all have the same magical properties. You want to use ingredients that you're familiar with. Here's a rundown of my spell jar. First, I cast a circle, and I cleanse the tools in the empty jar, inside and outside the bottle. I hold the jar in both of my hands and bring it close to my heart chakra. I do this to charge the container with my intention. This is where you can start saying your spell, or singing or humming your spell, as you continue adding more ingredients. I personally say the spell after I finish adding the ingredients, but I'll sing or hum sometimes while I'm adding the ingredients, as I'm creating the spell jar just to keep the vibrations up. Next, hold the base ingredient in your hand and connect with its energies. Then go ahead and add the salt or base ingredient, if there is one. After that, add a dried herb. Make sure to pause on each ingredient and hold it for a moment, and use that time to send your intention into each ingredient. Then add some crystal chips. Add any additional ingredients after that. This could be eggshells, more herbs, crystal chips, hair, bones, sand, cat claws, etc. Once all ingredients are added, this is where I would say the spell. Then close the jar and seal it with wax by pouring the wax directly over the cork or lid. Don't forget to thank any spirits, deity, or fae that aided you in the spell. Release your cast circle and you're done. Here's how to spice it up. If you want to make your spell jar more powerful, using more magical correspondences really helps. For example, bottle color can be used to amplify your intention. If you're making a money jar, you can use a green bottle. For a glamour spell, you could use a pink jar. Another thing to do is to seal the jar with a specific colored candle wax. If it's a happy everyday jar spell, you might want to pour yellow wax over the top. If the jar is meant to be carried with you, you could put it on a necklace or a keychain. That's what I like to do. Although, I have made a protection while driving jar spell before, and I hung it on my rear view mirror in my car. However, in the summer when it gets super hot, that wax will melt and it might come undone. That's what happened to me. There were crystals everywhere in my cup holder. The base salt that I used for that spell was black salt, and I sealed it with wax from a black protection candle. Another way to spice it up would be to use numerology while adding the ingredients. For example, count 3 spoonfuls as you add each ingredient. You can also add a charm to the jar and use knot magic to tie the knot. I make sure that the color of the string that I use to tie on the charm matches my intention. Typically, I'll add a pentagram charm to the spell jar, but sometimes I get crafty and get unique with my charms. I'll add a heart to a love jar, or a $sign to a money jar. You can also label the jar with a spell name or a sigil. Sometimes I make a few and then I forget what each one's for if I use the same colors. Thanks so much for joining me. May your future be bright and guided by the stars. Blessed be.